All right, so Jen, we are recording. So
Hi,
nice to see you.
it's so
Yeah.
good to see you. It's been a while.
It's been a while. I think I talked to you for this podcast maybe 2 years ago.
Oh, yes.
And at that point, the conversation was a lot around, like, we were doing a lot of industry conversations because I know we were
Hmm.
looking to inspire people or we were looking to have people, because COVID was a tough time for everyone, but
Yes.
we're in a very different place now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Isn't that exciting news? But I still like to inspire people and give business tips as well. And I've always had strong opinions, and I don't think that's ever going to go away. But yeah, I'm excited to have a conversation today about what's happening out there. Some good stuff going on.
Yeah, you again. I know you're one of my favorite people in the industry to speak to, and I
Oh,
know
thank you.
you are a lot of people's favorite person to speak to. Um, I just want to start with you for the opening here. You've had a couple of role changes. I spoke to you about vacation planners
Hmm.
last year when you were launching it.
Yep.
I was hoping you could sort of catch us up to speed on what's happening with you, what's happening with TPI, with vacation planners,
Yeah.
what's going on. Yeah.
What the heck is going on? Well, I will tell you 2024 and the beginning of 2025 have definitely been banner years for me personally, and also really banner years for the company. So, to kind of take you back, TPI has been in business since 1988 as a host agency and has always had the foundation of wanting to create services and support and programs to support the independent travel advisor. And we've done that really well. And then in May or June of last year, we decided to open up a franchise division. And that was a division really designed to kind of meet the needs of the travel advisor who felt like, yes, I'm selling travel, but I'm getting stuck, right? I'm getting stuck at that $400,000, $500,000 limit. And now I have to start expanding my business and my office, which means that I have to hire people or get virtual assistants or really dive deep into technology. And so the franchise division really was designed to meet that need. And we launched, and we have 6 franchisees. We're very excited. We're growing very slowly on purpose. I think a lot of people like that done for you marketing approach and that technology suite integration. And so as we did this, we had TPI and then we had vacation planners. It's really one family, really with 2 brands. And we kind of got our heads together. The owners and I got our heads together and we said, it's feeling disjointed. People were getting confused in the industry. We don't understand it. Why are TPI as vacation planners going to poach TPI advisors? I'm like, it's the same family. There's no poaching going on. This is just a different business model for folks to take a look at. And so through a series of conversations, we realized to be able to create that continuity across the board with multiple brands. And as we build brands, additional brands and services and programs and companies to support the advisor, it just made sense to volunteer me as the president for both companies. So
Okay.
they're like, yeah, why don't you just run both? And I am also acting as the chief marketing officer for both. So we have that continuity of service, of brand, of messaging, of everything that goes along with it.
Yeah. So first of all, I know it's belated, but congratulations
Oh,
again. You made it sound like it was a volunteer, but it's
oh, well,
definitely something to hang your yeah.
it
Um,
is. It is. And it's
yeah.
in my short, now it's going to be celebrating 10 years, Dan, 10 years in the industry. Boy, have I seen so much improvement in our industry. So many really cool things. And I said it during the pandemic. When we get on the other side of this and you add 10 years on top of it, business colleges are going to utilize the travel industry in their case studies and create entire um, classes and courses around how to survive something where everything was taken out of your hands. And so it's just incredible to see the growth within the industry still.
Yeah, and I think you have an interesting point of view from. I know you do a lot of stuff with ASTA, and you have TPI, you have vacation planners. I know you talk to so many people. I'm curious. Like it seems like at this point, agents are trying to find the best way forward for themselves. Like you mentioned, what vacation planners offers.
Mhm.
Is
Mhm.
that something you're hearing from a lot of people that they're trying? Like things have changed significantly.
Mhm.
There could be a different way forward, a more
Mhm.
profitable, a better way forward, and
Yeah.
agents are sort of now trying to find those roads and find which one's the most appropriate for them.
Yeah, I think what's happening, we've always had new folks entering the industry that had never been in the industry before. You know, the industry does a really great job just by FOMO, quite frankly, you know, because of social media, of attracting folks that are interested in joining the industry. What I think the biggest change that's happened is they're coming in, and because of the efforts of ASTA and every host agency out there saying, listen, you can do this part time. We welcome you. But this is not a side hustle. This is not a side gig where you're just booking your friends and family, because through the pandemic, we saw really specifically how important it was for someone to understand the terms and conditions, understand utilizing technology to be able to serve their customers. And we've gotten a lot more serious about it. Now, doesn't mean that the part-timer isn't still welcome, because most people start part-time. So the big switch that's happened post-pandemic is when they're coming in, they're realizing there's a lot of training, and by golly, you've got to get that training. And then you need to be part of a really strong community that helps you with that. I think the next rendition, and I think I talked to you about this last time I saw you, which I can never remember where we see each other, but is now it's the time. It's the pivotal crossroads point right now. If we get this right as an industry, to now help the consumer truly understand and understand the value and the benefit of working with a professional travel advisor in their travel planning experience. And I take it back to, you know, when I came in 10 years ago, everyone was referred to as ICs and home based, and they were kind of like looked down upon, which always irritated me. Now they've got a reputation that, no, I'm a professional. I'm serving my local community. But our next rendition now is that we really need to reinstate a consistent consumer experience. And what I mean by that is, Dan, you know, back in the day when there were brick and mortars and travel agencies in your neighborhood, you knew the expected experience of working with your travel agency. You drove past it, you saw them at the fairs, they were in the Chamber of Commerce, they wore the shirts, they, you know, sponsored the yearbook ads, they were in the stadiums. And you would knock on the door, set up an appointment, walk into an office, and there was brochure racks, everything, and really oversized computers on the desk, and, you know, dial phones. And you sat down with an advisor who asked you those qualifying questions, pulled out the brochures, crafted an experience for you. You gave them the credit card, they sent you the documents, and they took care of everything. We still do that, but we just don't have the brick and mortar. So my passion and mission really is to get us to understand, instead of trying to beat the consumer over the head, use a travel advisor, hire a travel advisor, we have to somehow or another come up with a consistent consumer experience that the consumer can kind of sit in and trust. And because this is very much an independent contractor world where everyone can run their business any way they want, we have a challenge. We really have a challenge. So that's part of the reason that I love the franchise model, because that consistent experience starts with the intake form, the website, the itinerary app, the CRM, the email automations, you know, the way they communicate with the customer, the expectations of technology, an app in their phone to help manage their trip while the traveler is out there. Oh, boy, I'm sorry, I did a lot of talking, but I'm super passionate.
No.
As you can tell, I'm super, super passionate about it.
I mean, it's just a couple of things, Jen. Like, so there's still a brick and mortar in my neighborhood. I live in a Polish neighborhood in New York, and it still has the old Apple Vacations neon sign in the window. And I really love walking past it every day, because it just, again, like it just sort of is very nostalgic. And I know the industry has gone home base, and I know some brick and mortars still exist and are still very successful, but like the old school brick and mortar, there's still a certain charm to that I'm glad is still alive. Yeah.
I'm a huge believer in the brick and mortar. I'd like to see it all come back because it's really about, I really would. And I've said that for a long time. And I think that's a missed opportunity that people poo-poo away, when in reality, the brick and mortar really could help our profession. But, you know, Dan, what I love about what you said, that nostalgia, that you walked past it, they're part of your community. And when advisors get out into the community and be part of it, they make an impact. and then they become part of the community structure and the weaving of what that community is really all about. At Vacation Planners specifically, that's why we are naming all of our they're claiming an area, so to speak. It's not a territory because you can sell travel anywhere to anybody, but it's Vacation Planners of Central Arkansas. It's Vacation Planners of Salt Lake City. It's Vacation Planners of
Yeah.
North Central Florida, because we want to create that impact in your community where you're like, oh, okay, this is my community's travel agency. And
Yeah, I think that is incredible. Yeah.
thank you. Thank
Go
you.
ahead. I didn't want to cut you off. Yeah.
Oh, no, I could talk all by myself if I needed to. But
I know,
also,
yeah.
I know. But Dan, also, for me, it's also about how AI is playing such a beautiful role in our industry. And I'm praying that everyone that's listening to this realizes that AI is not going to replace the advisor, but more importantly, is actually going to elevate the role of the advisor, not from the advisor travel planning side, which of course it is, but mostly because we are a world that makes purchasing decisions based on reviews, recommendations, personal experiences. We don't feel confident, and we never will when it comes to our vacations specifically, feel 100% confident relying on a box. We like it. We like it in the
Yeah.
research process. We like it in the inspiration process. But when the rubber meets the road and I've only got 7 days off for this vacation, I want to talk to somebody who I can trust.
Let me pose something to you, because I had a conversation yesterday with an agency owner, and she sort of played devil's advocate for this opinion. But I haven't felt the level of fear that I thought I would feel amongst agents when it comes to AI. It feels like consumers have already, the ease of buying anything now is already so low or so
Mhm.
high that how much easier is AI going to make it for consumers? Like, I don't, this doesn't seem like the big bad wolf that other things in the industry. I know I've heard about the OTA days and things like that. It doesn't feel the same as when I talk to people about those days. And I'm curious if you've had that same experience.
Yeah, it's a completely different purchase, right? Now, listen, if somebody has a relationship with a brand, they got the relate. I'll give you an example. I buy almost everything online now, not because I don't like my local stores, but because I don't have time to go into the stores, and I spend 4 times the amount of money. Just ask my husband who pays the credit card. 4 times the amount of money because I trust the brand that I'm purchasing from online because I had a relationship in store at one point. I had and I'm listening to the reviews. Reviews, guys, advisors that are listening, reviews, because we don't purchase anything anymore that's of substantial importance to us without clicking on that review button. When we do that, and then the review has to be specific to us. So it can't just, you as an advisor, you can't have your friends and family and your clients go, oh, she was great. Dan was amazing to work with. That doesn't mean anything. It's got to have the story. Dan helped me and my, 2 teenage sons finally get away right before they went to college, crafted an experience where we had downtime with one another, they have to tell the story, because I'm looking for myself in one of those stories to connect with that advisor. I was listening to a different travel podcast not too long ago, and I can't remember, it was the CEO of TripAdvisor. I'm going to get it wrong. It was the CEO who was at a conference, and he just kept reiterating what I was saying. And he was an OTA. And he said, the days of just blindly making a decision based on what the computer is telling you is a good idea are gone. This is an OTA. Now, of course, he never went the route of travel advisor, right? But instead he said, we have to have a really strong relationship with that consumer, that we haven't failed them in their purchasing decision, number one. Number two, we also need to ensure that they see reviews and see them. Same thing I just got finished saying.
Yeah.
No one's going to buy without some sort of personal connection. And the OTAs are still trying to figure it out. Now they're making billions of dollars, but those are I want to go stay at the Marriott Hotel for 4 nights. They're not curating experiences via an OTA. They just aren't.
Yeah. I mean, TripAdvisor built that business on those reviews on TripAdvisor,
Yeah.
like those user-generated reviews. So obviously those are clearly very important. I do think advisors maybe take that for granted sometimes. They think about Facebook followers, they think about Instagram reels and numbers and things like that. But having the referral network, every single advisor I talk to, that's their number one source
It
of new
is.
customers is
It
that
is.
referral network. Whether it's a referral on Facebook or a referral in person, it seems like the referral network is a big thing. Being a part of the community, like you mentioned, seems like a big thing. People want, if they're people are spending the money now that they're spending on travel, and people seem very, very willing to keep doing this. They want someone they can look at, someone they can talk to, and they want a
Mhm.
face to be able to place to
Yeah.
who they're working with.
It's what we call an assisted sell. It's you have to be assisted to purchase for you to get the most out of it. And as consumers, the way we're getting the assistance is through reviews from strangers that really told the story, or I have a relationship with that brand. That's why there's hotel brands that are going into cruising. There's shoot, celebrity is now going to the river cruise space. Well, how
Yeah.
smart is that? That's because they already have a strong relationship with the client. The client's like, okay, now what are you doing next? Let's go. Let's do it. It's the same thing with the advisor. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I only see really great growth. I only see, boy, the number of communities that are out there to support the independent advisor is pretty impressive. Advisors love helping one another. It's
Yeah.
impressive.
It's incredible. Again, I think I mentioned it. We had a conference last week and I was on stage and I mentioned it. I think I mentioned it every time on these conferences, but like the level of cooperation is incredible. It seems
Mhm.
like I
Mhm.
don't know if any other industry can match the level of cooperation that's amongst the travel trade. Like
I know.
it seems so crazy, and people are so willing to go
Mhm.
the extra mile to spend their own time, which is
Mhm.
obviously very valuable now, in order to
Mhm.
help someone else they might have just met earlier that day.
Yeah. And they do it, I think, for a couple of reasons. One, it's just who we naturally attract to the travel industry are people who are passionate about sharing knowledge with others who could benefit, right? And in this case, in the travel advisor space, it's they're sharing knowledge about a destination or a resort. Like they like to be able to be part of somebody else's story, right? They want to be part of that story. That's really who the travel advisor is. They want to be part of it, they want to craft it, and they want to be part of it. I think it's number one. Number two, I think I know the advisor, and I swear to you, I'm 59 years old and I don't plan to retire anytime soon as long as the vitamins keep me going and the Pinot Grigio is cold in the refrigerator. I am going to stay in the industry. And before I leave this industry, I hope that we've made massive strides towards the professionalism of the industry
Yep.
with regards to how the individual advisor feels about themselves and what role they play, and then takes that seriously. Again, I think part timers, people who do this part time, this is on the side, all about it. Just at least be professional about it, right?
It
Um,
seems so. Speaking with you earlier, and it seems like processes are the big thing, or processes is the
yeah,
big thing. Is
yeah,
that there has to be a standardized way to onboard clients to go through bookings. Like it seems like that's what you're pitching almost, or that's what
yeah.
you're hoping to hear. Yeah.
I mean, you just think about any other service or anything that you purchase. With the exception, you go into a car dealership, you kind of like make assumptions of what it's going to be like, right? You go into a restaurant, you kind of know you're either going to sit down and someone comes to you, or you're walking up to a kiosk and ordering it yourself, or you're walking up to a person behind a counter, and then eventually you get food. There's a place for you to eat, or you're going through a drive-through. There's an expected experience. They all look different, feel different, but it's still an expected experience. There is no such thing in the travel advisor space. None. CPA, they're going to ask for your records. They're going to print something out. You're going to sign it. They're going to file attorney. You're going to pay a consultation fee. They're going to talk to you, but there's no expect. So the process is, to your point, Dan, the process is where I think we have the opportunity, which is every travel advisor. It's listen, this is a conversation that we need to have. Yes, it can be somewhat of an intake form, but you as a consumer, you're going to know what the terms and conditions are for every single trip. You're going to know that you should have travel insurance. You're going to have an itinerary app of some sort. Like, can we make something of technology consistent, but yet have different variations of it? You're going to be reminded when there is a final payment. You're going to have someone who's going to talk to you and curate the experience and give you recommendations. You're going to have your confirmation numbers. As simple as that sounds, if you talk to 100 different advisors, you're going to have 100 different business models. Some charge fees, some don't charge fees. Some use technology, some do not. Some pick up the phone and talk to people, some do not. Some use text messages, some do not. It is there's no expected process when working
Yeah.
with a travel advisor. And I think if we lean into that, I think what will happen is, as we say, this is what it looks like to work with a travel advisor. I think those that are coming into the industry, if they're smart, they would say, and those that are currently, I need to be part of that process. What are the tools, technology, programs, and partners that I need to be able to be part of that process?
So I guess two questions on that. And the first is why what do you think the reason is behind a lack of this standardized process? Like I know the industry has sort of been born out of so many different areas and so many different needs, but I imagine like this has been a thought of yours for a while. And then second of all, like whose responsibility would it be? Is it just an industry wide thing that we all sort of have to pitch in on? Like whose
Mhm.
responsibility would be to put these in place?
Yeah, I think the reason that it happened was there was an expected experience when we had brick and mortar, and as soon as that went away, nobody knew what the heck to do.
It's fair, yeah.
Right? And then people had to go back to work. It's just kind of like the GDS. You used to have to know GDS. Now you don't have to know GDS. Now, it used to be everybody booked the air form. Now nobody books the air. I shouldn't say nobody, but it's tough to get in there. So I think it's a combination. For me, I think the role that I see that I have some sort of impact or ability to create an impact is getting people to think about it and to say, yeah, what is my process? I used to put on an event every year for TPI called Building Your Legacy. And I gave them puzzle pieces and they ripped out the puzzle pieces. And then I had them write like a component on each piece. And it would be things like CRM, insurance, ASTA membership, and it was 20 different foundational pieces for launching a business or managing your business. And then I would say, pull out the puzzle pieces that you actually have in place and then push the rest to the side. And then maybe would have 6 out of the 20, 7 out of the 20. And then I'd say, okay, now put them back together. And they couldn't put anything back together because, of course, I tricked them. It's puzzle pieces. And we didn't do
Yeah.
it in a particular order, right? And that was kind of a wake up call. If you don't have the 20 puzzle pieces, you don't really have a solid foundation of building an agency that you want to sell one day, an agency in a financial position to purchase another one day, which is something that used to happen all the time. Where'd that go? An agency where you could pass it down to somebody. Usually what happens is we hear of a lot of people who just work until they don't want to work any longer, which in the travel advisor community, I've said this since day one, they don't retire, they just die. They just literally work until they die because they love it so much. They just love it so much. There is no expected experience of how you sell your agency or how to buy another agency. We're too scattered. So I think if we say, this is what it should look like, and where do you fall in to that formula? Or how are you able to insert yourself into that kind of approved across the board, this makes sense formula? If you can fit into it and we have everyone fitting into it or more people fitting into it, then we can start elevating that formula. I think that's the only chance that we have. And once we start doing that, then every travel advisor is going to feel confident going into a networking meeting or into at a vendor fair or a show with pride saying, yes, I own a travel agency. I'm your local travel agency. I'm right down the street. And so it's an industry, it's within the advisor database. And so I talk about it all the time. It's conversations like this, Dan. It's us asking regularly. I don't think it's regulation. I'm completely against regulation with regards to this. I don't think that's necessary. I think there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of humans that are helping other humans travel in a travel planning experience. And that's a beautiful thing. And I don't want to limit that.
Yeah. And I do think, again, like you talk about regulations, I do think this is something because of the nature of the cooperation industry that can happen organically. I
Yeah.
think it's like you mentioned, conversations like these are important to have. So Jen, I don't want to keep you for more than a half an hour, but I want to ask about one more thing about vacation planners and
Sure.
TPI.
Yeah.
So you said 6 franchisees for vacation. Do you set goals for yourself or your brands? And like, do you have
Mhm.
a goal for how you want this brand to grow, I guess, in the rest of 25?
Yeah, I would say from a numbers goal for vacation planners, we are anticipating 50 franchisees by the end of 2025 at the most. I don't want to
Okay.
bring on too many more because we're a small but mighty team, still putting together a lot of our processes. I also want to learn a lot in 2025 in the vacation planners world. Other than that, and of course, there's budgets and forecasts, there's finances involved. But honestly, on the TPI side, we've always taken the approach that of the infinite game. It's not the finite game. I don't know if you're familiar with that with Simon Sinek, but the infinite game, the finite game is the game where you're always growing to something, right? You're always trying to hit a specific goal. And then you hit it, then you kind of go, now what, right? I've already achieved it. The infinite game says you're just trying to better yourself, best yourself, constantly looking, always, always, always moving. That's who I am naturally. And so as a leader, that's what I'm instilling in our teams. And so, yeah, I see lots of good stuff. TPI just purchased a third-party training program, and now we have a Travel Planners Academy program that's new to the industry. It's not this big, robust thing, but it's something that if you're new, it's going to give you a good foundation before you jump into the TPI world where they're going to help you. So the host agency is great for someone new to the industry, learning the ropes, figuring out who they want to be and where they want to go. And the franchise, we're only working with experienced advisors. We're working with advisors who wake up one day and say, all I want to do is sell, scale, and make an impact in my community. And that's the advisor that does well and will be attracted to everything that we offer on the franchise side. But those that just kind of want to do their brand, their business, their identity, the way they want to do it, the host agency side is going to work great for them. So yeah, it's exciting.
It is. It's really exciting. And I have to say, I've spoken to a couple of TPI agents over the last year, or TPI advisors over the last year. And when I ask them how they ended up TPI, they always say Jenn Lee. They always say, you got them there. So
I cannot be the sales funnel. I cannot be the only reason.
So I have no doubt, not just in your brands, but and also this longing for the industry to set these standard processes. I wouldn't bet against it happening simply because I know it's a passion project of yours. I want to ask you one last thing. You're two brands now, and I know they're the same family, like you mentioned, but I imagine every time I speak to you, you're always so bright, you're always so cordial, you're always very excited. And I'm curious if you spend any time like having to wind down at the end of the day or at the end of like a long week, because I know this industry has sort of gotten crazy with what's been happening. So I'm curious, like, do you do you deliberately, I guess is the word, deliberately have to spend time winding down at any point? I'm curious what are those experiences are like.
It's interesting because I get this question often, like, do you sleep? And right now I'm a 1:30, 2:30 in the morning kind of girl. You're going to get emails from me. My brain's on, and I'm making lots of decisions in a short period of time. But here's what it is. When I take my lunch break, which is usually about 22 minutes, which is the same amount of time of 2 segments of a 30-minute rom-com, or I go into the living room and I put my headphones on so my husband doesn't talk to me. I love my husband, but I'm like, be quiet. And I disconnect and I watch some sort of Real Housewives of something or Below Deck somewhere. I watch that. And then I drink wine at night, 1 or 2 glasses of wine, and I sleep like a champ. But I am the worst person to ask this question of, because I'm supposed to say I go on a retreat, I walk and think and meditate. I don't do any of that. I'm up, I'm running and going, and then when I sleep, I'm out. That's the way I'm wired.
That's the answer I was sort of hoping for too. I didn't think I would get the retreat answer, and I've seen my fair share below deck at this point in my life. I guess being married, so I completely understand. It's nice to watch that show, and it's also kind of tangentially related to the industry. Like you can see the consumer expectations, the customer expectations. You can see like it is kind of nice, and it has informed some of my thinking, to be honest. Even though it obviously is just a reality TV show on Bravo.
It's just escapism. I get to bite into their story that I'm not even close to that story. I can't and the only other thing that I do that I actually I love doing is I love watching any documentary like on Netflix or Amazon that's based on a true story of a human being. I just watched one about Aaron Rodgers, a 3-part series about him. I learn a lot from those. So that's my other most favorite thing to do. But you've known me for years, Dan. This is what you see. This is how I am. You can ask anybody who's been around me. This is me. Listen,
I have no doubts. I know you've given me some book recommendations too. I think you told me about Bob Iger's book during the pandemic, which I read, which was really a pleasure to read. But I I'm being honest when I say it is so lovely to talk to you, Jen, and I
Oh, thank you.
appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon as well.
Can't wait to see you.
All right.
Bye.
Ba ba da ba da ba da ba ba.